Hey everyone, welcome back to the 88 Fitness Training YouTube channel. I'm Camille, this is James, and today we're continuing on with our series, Is It Worth It? So this is when we introduce popular exercises and talk about whether they actually produce hypertrophy and those gains. So today's exercise is going to be the side bend. So oblique side bends, you see them done all the time. There's lots of mixed information on whether they're actually worth it or not. So we're going to take you all through that today. So stay tuned, check it out. Thanks for sticking around. All right, so the oblique side bend, is it worth it? We're going to go all through that for you today. So let's start by showing you what an oblique side bend is. So, all right, James is going to demo everything for me today. So you can either have a dumbbell or a kettlebell. James has got a dumbbell, and go ahead and show him what an oblique side bend is. All right, you're literally just bending to the side. You guys probably see this done all the time at the gym. People will be in front of the dumbbell rack doing their oblique side bends for abs. You can even do it body weight, I guess.
You see this all the time, every day in the gym. I see this more than any other exercise. People even throw their arm up.
Yeah, we'll get that contraction.
I wish I saw this as much as you see squats or barbell curls, but you see the side bends like crazy.
Yeah, so you can also use a kettlebell. We got a kettlebell here. You can even use a weight plate. It doesn't really matter. The idea is that you're holding some type of weight at your side and you're bending to the side, contracting your obliques, just like this. All right, so that is what an side oblique bend is. In terms of what muscles are worked when you're doing an oblique side bend, it's primarily the external oblique. However, there is also the internal oblique. So when we're talking external obliques, that's the part that you can see. So those fibers actually run down and kind of diagonal this way. And so as he does the side bend, go ahead, do a side bend. Yeah, those muscles are working in that manner. Now the internal side oblique is very similar, but the fibers run the opposite way. So you kind of have this crosshatch with how those muscles are oriented. But both of those muscles are very active. They're the prime movers when you do the oblique side bend. And of course, you're still using that abdominis rectus, your six-pack ab muscles. They're more of a secondary muscle, though, when you do the oblique side bend.
Right.
In terms of functions of the obliques, the primary function is going to be to prevent and to control that trunk flexion. So it prevents you from just kind of flopping over to the side. So it's a very important muscle just from a functional standpoint. And you definitely want to make sure that it's a developed muscle, you have good control, because as you do a lot of exercises, whether it's squats, maybe an overhead shoulder press, you want to make sure that you're stable in those exercises and you can support your core.
Core strength, yeah, and it makes sense after she said the muscles crisscross, right? Because they're balancing act, right? Mm-hmm. They're going back and forth, keeping you balanced all day long.
You got it. So that's the primary function of the external and internal obliques. Now let's go through some of the benefits of training the side obliques. You know, one, I think most people are doing this for an aesthetic reason, so I could see why that would be a benefit. As you train that muscle, it does get bigger. You can start to see it. Like you can see his external obliques as he's just standing there. So I think that's probably people's number one reason. Maybe not a great reason, right? I think there's a lot of other functional strength aspects of why someone would want to train the side obliques.
100%, but nothing wrong with looking good, yeah.
Yeah, so other benefits, like we already mentioned, is the core stability, like the rotational strength. So as you're doing some of these big, powerful exercises in the gym, you want to really make sure you have strong obliques to be able to control that rotational force.
Core strength, I mean, squats, deadlifts, you name it, core strength, right?
Yeah, but I think for today's purpose of the video, we're really talking about that aesthetic portion, so we're going to get more into that in a second here. Now let's get into some drawbacks for doing oblique side bends. For me, I think the number one drawback that happens or can happen is improper form, placing a lot of stress on your spine. So like as you're doing that side bend, depending on how you're holding the weight, your shoulder can roll forward. So actually, James, show me what that would kind of look like Right. So now you're putting a lot of tension on that spine, not in a good way. You're not really hitting the side obliques the way that they were intended to. And that's what you see a lot of time as people are trying to progressive overload with this exercise.
Yeah, I see people trying to go too heavy too. You can do a whole lot of weight just like this, but you really gotta lighten it up and do it right.
Yeah, and I think that mind muscle connection can be kind of difficult with this particular exercise because you're working this small little muscle here and you're holding so much weight. So it's really important to make sure you're doing it right. Yeah, and then so another thing I think with this one too, in terms of exercise selection, our range of motion is so limited on the side oblique. You know, I'm not sure that that makes it a really effective exercise. So you're literally just moving maybe 6 inches or so, like not that much. Yeah, and if you go any further down, then again, you're starting to get into form issues. You're flexing something that you shouldn't be. And so for me, the biggest drawback though relates more back to that aesthetic aspect. A lot of people are trying to go for this hourglass thing where they have this narrow waist, nice V-taper, wide shoulders. And the thing about training a muscle, it's going to get bigger. So you run the risk of actually growing wider down here at the trunk area, which is not where you want the width in your physique.
Yeah, think about it. It's just like any other muscle. It's gonna grow, and it grows out.
Yeah. So if you are gonna do side bends, keep that in mind. Make sure that that fits your goals. And then also make sure you're keeping it in balance with your other core exercises. So you want to make sure you're still working, you know, your six-pack abs, anterior serratus, all the other muscles that form that core and trunk area so they can grow together so you don't get blocky in one particular area. Right. But as a female bodybuilder, for me, side bends are an absolute no. I don't want to incorporate that and grow wider. I don't want to have a blocky physique. That's really important to me. So it's definitely something to keep in mind if aesthetics is your primary reason for doing the oblique side bend.
And I guess I'll speak for the male athletes. We don't want it either. Any competitor out there, you want the smallest weight you can get.
All right, so with that in mind, what do you do? So, you know, if the oblique side bend makes you grow wider, are there exercises you can do without getting that width, but still getting that strength to the obliques? Because like we said, they play a pivotal role in being able to support your squats, deadlifts, overhead press, and a lot of the other compound exercises that a bodybuilder would do. So let's get into that. Next, let's compare this exercise with some other exercises that target the obliques. One of the ones that come to mind right away is the Russian twist. If you don't see people side bending, you definitely see them doing the Russian twist. So that's when they have some kind of plate or ball and they're turning side to side. This is an interesting exercise to me, and I think it's an okay exercise, but only if you're doing it right. If primarily you're taking your ball and you're using your arms to turn side to side, well, you're not actually working your obliques at all. So that's something to keep in mind. So, you know, apples to apples, comparing oblique side bend to the Russian twist, the side bend might actually be better because you're actually training obliques versus just moving your arms and getting an arm workout. But that's my opinion. What do you think about the Russian twist?
I agree. It's pretty not the best exercise. And again, twist your core.
Yeah.
If you're just moving your arms, you're wasting your time. You're doing an arm exercise.
Yeah. Another exercise we can compare it to is maybe a side plank or a traditional plank with a foot raised up. Yeah. I actually think that's a great exercise because you're not only targeting the side obliques, you're targeting the rest of your core too. And so remember I said that that was important to keep everything in balance and grow together kind of thing. Yeah. So I actually would say that a side plank or a one-legged plank might actually be more effective than doing the side bend in terms of strengthening your core. What do you think about that one?
Agree, 100%.
Yeah. All right, and another exercise that I absolutely love to do, and I'll actually have James demonstrate it for you in a second here, is hanging windshield wipers. So this is a really great one. It's gonna force you to use that anti-rotation, to use the obliques to prevent you and control your motion as you go side to side. And so it's targeting everything. It's multiple muscle groups. It's fantastic. So go ahead, James, show us what this looks like.
All right.
All right. Side to side. He has to use a lot of control because his body wants to naturally start to swing as he's doing this. And so you can see that side oblique working. You can really see it, y'all. There you go. All right, you can rest. What do you think about the windshield wipers?
That's a nasty one. It's tough, and like she said, you got to keep it, smooth and under control, or you're gonna be swinging back and forth like crazy. But it is a great one for your obliques.
Absolutely. All right, so the windshield wiper is a really advanced exercise, y'all. So if you're not quite there, I'm not quite there. So if you're not quite there, then you could also do like a knee twist. So it's just like a knee raise, but we're gonna add some rotational aspect there. Just like that, you can alternate. It's a really great exercise. Again, you can see for the external and internal obliques, but he's also using his regular six-pack ab muscles as well. What do you think about that one, James?
It's a great one. It's probably one of the best in my opinion. You're working all your abs and your obliques with one exercise. It's fantastic. The only other one I like other than that is Rocky sit-ups. Same reason. You're doing sit-ups and you're twisting. So you're working all your abs, all your core, and your obliques at the same time.
Yeah, and so hopefully you guys caught along. If you looked at the windshield wipers, you looked at those knee twists, there's a whole lot more range of motion than when he was just doing a side bend. So you know what we always say, like muscle stretch while underload has the most potential for growth. So we want that range of motion. So don't limit yourself to doing the side bend. To me, that's an easy out, right? It's like, hey, I'm at the end of my workout. There's the dumbbell rack. I'm just gonna toss in some side obliques. Yeah. But realize that's not the most effective exercise. So in terms of verdict, y'all, I think you guys have picked up on it now. James and I are not a fan of the oblique side bends. So if you're gonna do it, make sure you realize why you're doing it, make sure you do it right, and I would honestly consider picking a different exercise.
100%. I feel my obliques working more during twisted movements, way more than any bending movement anyway. What do you feel?
No, I agree. Like you're actually training those fibers in the directions that they run when you're doing the windshield wipers, the knee tucks. You're contracting both of them when you're doing the side plank, the plank with the one leg, versus just going side to side. So it's just something to think about. Well, there you have it. It's not worth it, y'all. That's the verdict. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's video in this series, and we want to hear from you guys. Like, what exercises do you think's worth it when it comes to training those side obliques? So drop us a comment, let us know, and hopefully you'll enjoy this series. We have a couple more exercises to take you through, so definitely check out our playlist. Definitely the ab playlist. A lot of great exercises that are worth it for you in there. But hopefully you tune in every Sunday to join James and I live. That's your opportunity to ask us any questions that you have in real time and get those answers. All right, y'all, until next time, 88 Fitness Training. Like and subscribe.